Javelina Nation, welcome back to the 2020 Javelina Virtual Coaches Caravan as we come to you live from the Steinke Physical Education Center on the Mendoza's Pharmacy Javelina Sports Network, and we're joined by the head coach of Javelina Women's Tennis, Autumn Wollenzien. Autumn, thank you for taking the time and joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, anyone who wants to give to our programs, including Javelina Women's Tennis, just visit javelinagiving.org/one-day, or you can text Go Hogs to 202-858-1233. Now, Autumn, obviously, you did not get to finish out your spring season. I'm sure it probably didn't go the way you or anyone could have expected. But what were your positive and negative takeaways from the competition you saw from your team, both in the fall and the spring?
Man, what a year it's been. It was kind of crazy. No, we did not expect any of that. We were actually playing pretty well. Our record right before the shutdown was 5-2, so that was a great positive. One of the losses we had was to Metro State in Denver, and that was right before going into supposed to be going into our spring break. Well, no, yeah, right before going into our spring break matches. It was a good loss, and by a good loss, I mean that, it kind of let us know the things that we needed to work on, the things that we needed to grow from. It let us know, where we stood as far as what our goal was for that season. So that's why I call it a good loss, because it's one of those early in the season. They were a good team. We were a good team, but that day they beat us, and it was a long and tough match. I think the score was pretty close. So, those things are things that kind of, spring you forward and kind of help you reassess and understand where you need to go and things like that. Another good thing that happened during the right before and actually it was our last match. The last match right before the shutdown was that Valerie Ruiz, she got 100 wins. First time for a player in our program to get 100 wins after all 4 years. So it was kind of one of those things of, man, that was just in time. I'm so glad that she was able to accomplish that. She was not counting, so she didn't even really know. So there's no pressure in her brain, which was good. But to be able to make team history and do something like that right before a shutdown was amazing to me. So, it was a little bit of a heartbreaking situation because we had 4 seniors in the fall, 3 seniors in the spring because one graduated in the fall. So, I was very hurt to see that they didn't get to finish out their senior year. So,
You mentioned the seniors you had on the team last season, seniors who played a lot for you, whether it was Julia Rara or Victoria Roman of Sky, or you mentioned Valerie Ruiz. How impactful were they on your program over the course of their time here?
Oh, very impactful. I mean, we can't call ourselves a young program anymore. We've graduated several classes, and they most definitely made a huge impact as far as raising the level of the team, both on the court and off the court, by academically and athletically. Their commitment, their desire to win for the team was amazing. I mean, they taught me a whole bunch of lessons, and I'm grateful for the things that they tried to change and make better in the Javelina tennis program. So they were great ladies to have around. We were constantly laughing and joking, and they were fun, and they were super competitive. So those are the things that you really want from athletes in your program.
You mentioned the success you had in a limited amount of time last season, even without the chance to compete for a championship last year, which I know is always one of the goals you have for your team. Do you feel like having a successful shortened year puts you guys in a position that you're happy with going forward to 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the goal, is to compete for a championship. The goal is to aim high and shoot for the stars, and we most definitely were in the mix as far as the LSC championships. which is a great feeling. And it helps in, I mean, obviously we're recruiting, I mean, with graduating that many players in one semester, we had to have a huge recruiting class for this semester. And I think that, having a team like that we had last semester helps in recruiting and helps people understand, helps recruits understand what level of play we're looking for, the standard that we're looking for, and even if no matter where they're coming from, if they Google us, if they look it up, if they see the ranking that we've had, I mean, we got as high as 26 or 23 in the country. Uh, um, so it really does help to bring in better players and increase the level of the program, raise the standard of the program, and that's always my goal as well.
What were the benchmarks, the type of student athletes you were looking for when you were recruiting new players for this season?
Um, the biggest thing is one was results. What were their results at playing juniors? Two is personality. And three is their commitment level to the game of tennis.
How much did the pandemic have an effect on your ability to recruit? Was it a did it make it more difficult?
Yes, absolutely.
What were the challenges that it presented from a recruiting standpoint?
Well, by the time the pandemic hit, we mostly had most of the players that were coming this fall signed and ready to go. The challenge became that our players are. I think every player this year that we have recruited for this fall and next spring are all international players. So the challenge became, were they going to be able to get here to start the semester? For a little while, it was looking like they weren't going to be able to get here in the fall to be able to start this semester. Where normally, you have a set order of processes that they have to go through as far as getting their student visa and things like that. Many of them kept setting their appointments to get their student visa at the embassy. However, those appointments either were canceled or pushed back. So we were getting really close to crunch time and the start of the semester, August 24th, and then they literally showed up August 20th, where typically they might show up about a week earlier to be able to go through orientation and international orientation and moving into their dorm and things like that. So that process made it very difficult, and I was quite stressed this summer of, am I going to have a team here
No,
in
I
the
can
fall?
imagine.
So
How much time did you have to spend as a coach trying to help these athletes in any way you can get kind of check all the boxes that they needed to in order to be free and clear and be able to be here on campus on time?
well, it's a step by step process. So once they completed one step, we were able to move on to the next step. Once they were able to get their visa appointments, we were able to say, okay, do you have the things that you need for your visa appointments, your I-20 and all of those big words that we use for in the process. And then, are you able to book a flight to make it here, and how safe is that flight coming from the other side of the earth to Texas and things like that, were things that, you had to constantly check up on. I mean, it was almost a daily basis of daily conversation and making sure that, and not only just the new recruits, but also the returners, and making sure that, when they were able to make it here and if they had to quarantine or if they were going to be here on time and things like that. So it was not easy. Not typical, I would say. Not typical.
Is it a bit of a relief now to have at least that hurdle behind you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Obviously, you've had so many student athletes come through this program from so many unique backgrounds. You've had international players, and not just one, multiple international players on the roster every season. How beneficial is it having athletes who come from so many unique cultures and backgrounds together on your roster year in and year out?
It makes it fun. To be honest, I mean, I love the diversity of our team. If you look at the roster, or just the team pictures year by year after year, we have people from everywhere. And I think it is another level of education that each player earns as far as getting to know other people from other places and other cultures. And I mean, we've eaten food. I've had a girl who ate crickets in the van, and we were all looking at her like, "What? Okay, well," and that's what she loved it, and we were kind of like, "This is interesting." So it's situations like that that create a laugh, and you also learn at the same time, and it's so much fun and so fulfilling for me to see them come in as freshmen, and we build a bond, and they grow literally as a family, and it's one of those families that I indirectly put together, and I mean they become sisters. So it's amazing to me to learn and learn about them and their culture and things that make them tick and happy, and what actually creates a family for us. So
How much of a priority is it for you to make it seem like a family environment, a family atmosphere on your squad?
it's huge. Typically, the thing about tennis players is we grow up playing individual. We don't grow up playing on a team, so we have to learn how to be on a team first. You get to understand if you've ever had a friendship, you know what that friendship feels like. But to actually play for somebody else and not just play for yourself, or to actually have to be relied upon by others, is a big deal. And things that those things you have to actually learn and you have to actually feel. I can't always explain what it means to be relied upon. However, if you lose a match and that match lost us the match for the entire, for that match versus another school, then you understand what it feels like to be relied upon. So as we go through those experiences, and vice versa, if we won that match and that match clinched the match for the whole match against another school, you learn what it feels like to be relied upon, and you learn the disappointment and the excitement of actually of achieving that for your team. So and those experiences are what creates a family environment for us. And once they understand, okay, I am on a team, and not only what their responsibility is, but what others' responsibility is to them, then that's when it really becomes a lot of fun.
How often do you see that bond, that family type of mentality be something that continues even after a player has graduated and moved on?
Oh, um, it's that's easy. I think almost every team, I mean, even from being here to another university where I coached, I see, you know, the ladies go on to continue to hang out and continue to talk to each other through social media. Where they and the lucky part that I get to see is they're all over the world. So when I can see that somebody has gone to go visit them in another country, I'm like, how lucky are they? And that you have some place to go in that other country. So it's a big. I mean, it's great to be able to sit back and spectate and watch that part of it. It happens to almost every team that I've ever coached. So it's wonderful.
You mentioned how players, a lot of times they go from playing tennis on their own to now they're a part of your team, and you have to teach them a lot about what it means to be relied upon, having your teammates rely on you. Is that a lesson that needs to be taught kind of to each incoming class as years go on?
Yes. It's very easy to come into a situation like a team and um, relate and find the first person that you relate to and only communicate and talk to them. And I try to avoid that with us being a smaller team. And I try to get them to understand three things. You got to be relentless. We're going to relentlessly go after our goals. We're going to relentlessly fight for each other and to be resilient, because we're going to come across obstacles every day, obvious obstacles like an opponent, and we have to be resilient. We have to be able to fight back. We have to be able to see the goal at the end and understand that there's a process to get there. And then my third thing is always reliability. If we are out on the court by ourselves, then it's going to be hard to If you're just fighting for yourself, it's going to be hard for you to be relied upon. We can't trust you. So those three things I talk about every match. And once they start to buy into that idea, and they start to feel it, they really start to understand that, man, I really do have to be reliable. I have to be reliable in practice. I have to be reliable in class. I have to be reliable to my friend, and who is also has become my sister. Uh, um, and it just instills in them as they leave here those same three things. You got to be relentless in job searching. You got to be resilient when somebody tells you no, and if you are hired, you got to be reliable. You got to be a reliable employee.
How often do you try and push that message that these ideals that you're teaching, they're applicable in tennis, they're applicable in class, they're applicable in life. These are things you can carry with you long after you've finished here.
I try to use examples. I try to use examples like my own personal life. I'm a wife. I have to be reliable to my husband. So it's probably every day that something comes up where we can use that as an example. We can use those three R's as an example of something that happens. Whether it's a professor who has an opinion about a paper, and you have an opposite opinion, you got to be resilient. You got to be relentless. You got to go in there and talk to them and see what they say.
How soon do you think we'll be able to see Javelina tennis back on the court?
Hopefully very soon. Hopefully we can practice next week. I don't know. Hopefully very soon, though.
All right, well, anyone who wants to donate to Javelina tennis to give to Coach Wollenzien's program, just visit javelinagiving.org/oneday, or you can text GoHogs to 202